Guys, this is the most ridiculous tattoo I think I've ever done in my entire career. Let me give you some backstory. So we had this guy reach out. He said, hey, listen, I have this idea. I've been turned down by artists for 10 years. That's what he said. I was so curious at this point. I was like, what? What has been turned down for 10 years? He gave us all this prep work before the description. He's like, it might be weird. I won't be offended. If you don't want to do it, it's fine. But I figured I'd reach out. Here's the description. Upper back, one cockroach standing up straight, injecting another cockroach with a needle. That cockroach is hitting a blunt. There's another cockroach. I don't know if I can say this. Shitting his brains out. Then we have the brain matter being snorted by a mosquito. All that being said, I couldn't help myself. I was like, I want to do this. This is weird. This is so weird. Let me try to do it. So these thoughts are going through my head. Like, okay, we'll make cockroach characters. We'll have them, standing up. We'll insert all these items into it. We'll develop a mosquito. It just started going wild. I was like, guys, I think I can do this. Here's what I came up with. Hopefully you like the design. I'm not doing this alone. I'm bringing you guys with me on this journey. We're gonna do it together. Let's get into it. So, as you can see, we're at a different station today. I walked in and Chris told me to tattoo at a different station, so I got kicked out of mine. But we are doing such a fun piece today. Right now I'm working on one of our cockroaches. Created these little cockroach characters. What's really fun is it's kind of this like illustrative dark feel. We're not going necessarily for like a photorealism thing. So what that means is I get to like make up a lot of it. Like these are kind of my little characters I created, which gives a lot of freedom in the design. So what I'm doing, kind of like my approach to this, is I'm just sculpting, each part as I get into it. And I'm keeping a few basic things in mind. One is like our depth, meaning like, okay, what's in front, what's in back, things that are in the back are gonna be darker. Things that are in the front are gonna be lighter. For example, this arm here, you can see it's a little lighter than the body. And even though we have a big tattoo going on today, the items individually are smaller. Like this is a small arm, so it doesn't take much to contour it. So like even this little like face we'll do together. So in my stencil I kind of have contoured this kind of eye socket thing here. So we'll just establish that. This cheek is a little bit behind, so I'll just throw a shade separating that. And then as it comes to the top of the head, I'll fade it up a little. Cool, so that's going to be like the darker part of the face, actually. And I'm just going to like walk you guys through what's going on in my head. I'm going to tone this stuff down, make it a little more black so that it falls into the background here. Don't want any skin tone. And the darker that I make the surroundings, the more this head's gonna pop out. So I want to push some of this body and stuff back. Can you get rid of all this skin tone? So I'm kind of putting in these shades, like developing a little movement in the body, little muscle structures, kind of like rib-like things right here. And then I'm just attaching its appropriate value to like push it where it needs to go. So we're still in kind of the sketching phase. We'll come back up to the face. So I'm going to create this little kind of eye. Got the top lid. Got this pretty heavy brow in there. I kind of want the brow to stick out. So the best way to do that is to kind of keep it lighter. Then we have this little kind of sunken in cheek thing by the nose. Get that in. So we're starting with our darker features first, and we're kind of locking them in, because then if we shade on top of it, they'll still be there. Get this mouth in here. Now I want this part of the face to stick out a little bit more. So now I'm going to come down on this kind of side of the beak thing. We're going to go right over that other part we did. I want to extend this, I think, make it look a little more like sunken in. Get this lower part of the lip. Kind of got this like bottom lip that's just hanging out, almost like it's pouting. So we'll flick up so that the top of the lip remains light. And I'm going to leave this drool white or negative skin. So that means we have to surround it by some black or dark. This part of the arm is going to be pretty dark. So we'll come back to that. Just going to give it a little gray line so we don't lose it. Gonna make this look a little more sunken in there. Get the back of the head in there. Start shading around this. And I'm just gonna make all this gray so that it stays behind our main eye. Cool, see that's starting to pop out. And then we can get the eyes in here. The eyes are nice and dark. Pretty much gonna have them really dark shadow. I'm gonna leave a little bit of a shine point in there. We'll have the outside of the eye be a little darker. So now I'm really just shading around these kind of highlights that I've created in the center of the eye so that later I can go back, put white into it. Let's do small circles. So I want a dark background over here on the left, so I'm not going to make the eye solid black over there, or it will mesh in too much with our background. So see, we'll do like close to the face pretty dark, but the outside I'm going to leave just more of like a dark shadow, because I know here it's going to get pretty dark. I'm going to emphasize this brow a little bit by shading the rest of the hair. Cool. Just kind of like mimicked this pattern over here a little bit to provide some consistency. We're gonna shade around this brow from like the bridge just to get a little bit more definition. Just gonna lightly start to kind of go over everything and start bringing this shade up the eye. We want to make sure it still stays lighter than the side of the head so that it stays in the front. But we can start getting some of that texture in there. And then this is in front of that, so we'll just gonna shade over everything, make the back of the head darker, and then leave it lighter in the front. So I'm like pushing the shade kind of towards the light. Alright. Get that arm in before I lose it. We got a little shine point here, so I'm just going to outline the shine. You know, if I'm ever thinking I'm a little scared I'm going to lose something, just give it a quick gray line. And then we'll get the dark arm in there to lock it in. And this arm's going to be pretty simple. It's kind of in the back, you know, it's not in the forefront like this arm. So we're just going to give it a clean dark shadow. And that'll get the job done. But there's one thing I like about kind of doing a piece like this with a lot of smaller things going on. You don't have to do too much to get kind of the point across. Like if I just make this arm dark, you understand that it's behind him, it's not in front. You know, if this was like huge, we'd have to add more detail, maybe some like muscle definition. I'm just going to be very careful because that shine point from the needle is negative skin. So we want to make sure we don't go over it. And we can also kind of see the drool going a little bit more. So you can see this arm is kind of cut. Again, simple. I'm just going to cut the forearm in half. And this is what I mean about like sculpting. You know, we're starting to sculpt this body part by just adding, you know, a simple tone in there. And then we can get more specific if we want, once we have our basic tone in. You know, if I want to make these spikes a little darker and fade in, I can. Maybe by the wrist, I'll make it a little darker. Kind of fade in to kind of emphasize that bend there. You know, I'll flick down off the line, get some reflective light on the bottom of the arm. But it just starts with a, you know, a basic shape. Get this needle in here. And then our shine kind of goes up this way and back down there. And you're really gonna see the full effect of that when we get back to the white. The needle, we're just gonna be doing basic fades. So I am gonna kind of gray line around it. Because it's small, we want it to have good structure so it holds up. I'm gonna flick down. Give it a little fade there. Same thing coming up. Build the structure. Because when things are this small, you know, it needs all the help I can get. A little fade. And then this is kind of glass, right? So I'm gonna get my little notches in there for measurement. So we have like a plunger right here. And then this is a highlight, so I'm not gonna do anything in that. We're gonna put a pretty drastic highlight on this because we do have the glass. So we can do an intense highlight. There's one on the outer right. So I'm gonna flick down from that one. And then I'm gonna make this plunger a little darker. Now I really want it to go dark to light, so I'm gonna be slow and really flick off this line here. And I'm leaving just a little negative border on there. Same thing here. And then I'm just going to shade to the left of this center shine point just to help with some contrast. Because then when we put the white in there, it'll just pop even more. Cool, we got that needle in. Overall, I'm going to leave it pretty light because we do have a dark background. So this hand is kind of in the front, so we're going to keep it light. And remember, simple, we're just sculpting. So I'm going to make a little fade come in. I'm going to make kind of the points of the fingers a little darker, like they're curling in. I'm just kind of flicking off one side. I'm going to lay in some basic shades, kind of separating the knuckles, the hands, outline the fingers. And I think it'd be fun to like accentuate some of the knuckles. So where there's like these little knots, I'm just gonna kind of do that. Same thing over here. End up doing that to all the fingers. A little shade there. And remember, we talked about kind of putting in the characters and the defining things first, like these knuckles. That way it stays in there. Nothing crazy, you know, just kind of separating a little bit. Now we're just gonna add simple fades. I'm gonna fade down. I'm gonna make the tip a little dark, tips of the fingers a little darker. As they kind of curling in. You can fade down from the knuckles just a little bit. And then everything below these we're just gonna shade in. And this kind of makes it seem like the tips of the fingers are moving away from us, right? So they're kind of like curled. And I don't want to make it too dark because this hand is in the front. So I'm doing light layers so we don't overdo it. But still enough to give some like character to the hand. And then I think the light's kind of like here, so we'll fade off from the bend of the wrist. So we'll get this in. We're gonna make a little contour here. And then we're going to make it darker, 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 darker. Cool. That pushes that away. Sticks out the hand. We're gonna shade from this left side because that's the farthest away. And we're just gonna bring it in. Bring it in and down. Kind of finding our central light point. And now that we have our point up here,
we're gonna flick towards it. But this hand has to be a little darker than that one, right? So at this point I have like my structure in, and I'm just gonna kind of add to the contrast a little bit. So I'm gonna dip in my black, and I'm just adding a little darkness to it. Cool, we got a little creepy hand in there. We're just gonna kind of double check everything. If that's our lightest point, I want this a little darker, this a little darker. This is the farthest finger, so it should be the darkest finger. Nice, looking good. So yeah, we're just taking it in baby steps. We're making it up as we go, we're having fun. Does not get much better than this. We did it. Look at this thing, Fritz. Look at it. It's got everything you could want in a tattoo. You have this guy here, that's you. You got a bad influence. We have this guy, he's just happy. And this guy can fly. Danny was describing it as a circle of life. Got all kinds of stuff in here. Just looking great. It was a super fun description, really fun like challenge to create something with all these moving parts. I wanted it to look kind of, like just like a little window, like looking into this, scene going on. Really happy achieving that, kind of this back alley, like what's going on. It really, the only way to describe it, it was fun. It was so much fun, hitting everything, making it up as I go, adding in the white, separate certain stuff. Got all kinds of characters. I like the expressions, just an all-around fun piece. Would love to do more like this. Hit me with your craziest descriptions. We'll try to pull it off.